This is a guide for Fusion Laboratory Normal Mode. I learned the mechanics for this dungeon from the TERA Dungeon Guides Discord. I recommend that you join that one as well, so you get detailed guides for new dungeons as soon as they come out. Anyway, let's get right into it. The boss you're gonna be fighting here is called Rogash, and he's an Azard type with 57 billion HP. Let's start by briefly talking about his debuff. Most of the special attacks in this dungeon apply a debuff, which stacks up to 5 times and lasts for 30 seconds. If you reach 5 stacks, the boss will stun you and make you explode. This will cause a circle AoE, which hits other players close by. The stun can be cleansed, and the circle AoE can easily be avoided, so usually it's not too much of an issue, but still, try to avoid it. Rogash's basic attack is just forward slash aimed at the tank. He uses the weapon from his back and swings it in front of him. This can be blocked and iframed. There are 2 versions of the kick, one is instant and one is delayed. The instant version is just a regular kick aimed at the tank. This one can be blocked, but if you get hit, you will be knocked back quite far. The delayed version also knocks you back with a kick, the same way the instant kick does. This time, however, the boss first gets into a pose with his right foot pulled back a little and his left arm extended to the side. He then follows up with a kick that cannot be blocked and has to be iframed. Rogash takes the weapon from his back, forms it into a disc, spins it up above his head, throws it forward and then pulls it back. If you get hit by this, you will get knocked down. As a DPS player, you should stay on his right side while he's doing this, because the pullback will hit on his left. As a tank, you should block the forward throw, turn your camera around and block the pullback as well. The boss will first cross his arms and then do a spinning AoE attack with a range of about 12 meters. This can be iframed and blocked, but if you get hit, it will keep staggering you. Tanks can block for the group as well, Lancers can use Rallying Cry to prevent stagger, and Priests can use Kaya's shield. This mechanic is always followed by the backwards laser we'll be talking about in a minute. This attack starts with Rogash extending his hand, charging a purple energy ball, which he then shoots in the direction he was already aiming it at. This can be iframed, but if you get hit, it will stun you. This mechanic is always followed by either the spin we just talked about, or the back laser. This attack only happens after the spin attack or after the energy blast. The boss will shoot a laser from the weapon on his back, which staggers and applies a stack of the debuff on each hit. Also, if you get hit by the laser, a small circular AoE will spawn where you get hit. Rogash will make a fist with his right hand, charge up an attack, and then shoot a laser in the direction of the tank. He then slowly raises his arm, so the attack hits further away. This will keep staggering you if you get hit, and it applies debuff stacks, so make sure you don't get hit. The boss will get into a position similar to the casting animation of Haymaker on Brawler, to get ready to punch you. This punch is blockable. While charging the attack, his fist will be surrounded by the same purple energy ball as in the previous attack. If you look at the boss, you'll see that he has those spikes on both sides of his weapon on the back. For this attack, he will raise the spikes into the air, with the tips of the spikes pointing upwards. Then he attacks the tank with those spikes and finishes the combo by sending the spikes out on either side of the tank. Both hits can be blocked. If you're a healer, make sure you don't get hit by the sideways follow-up. If the boss raises the spikes and they point down and backwards instead, that means he will follow up with an iframeable backwards spike attack. This applies a bleed debuff, which can be cleansed though. This attack starts with Rogash getting ready for an uppercut with his left hand, which he then promptly follows up with. While charging the uppercut, his hand will glow purple. After the uppercut, he then smashes the floor with his right hand, which will produce an AoE with a 9 meter radius. This one stuns if you get hit. It can be blocked and iframed, but as a healer or ranged DPS, you can also just walk out of range. The stun can also be cleansed, of course. This mechanic looks very similar to the stun AoE attack I just mentioned, but the boss will not follow up with the stun AoE. The difference is that when charging up for the uppercut, his hand will not glow when he's faking it. Just like a lot of bosses in previous dungeons, this boss has a Raspbait attack, which will activate if you're trying to use a Resurrection Scroll or spell. The Raspbait attack is the same as the forward spike attack. At 80% boss HP, there will be a message on screen saying a hidden drone appears, and another message saying panels of core energy are summoned. Then 4 turrets will appear around the arena, which aim lasers at one person every 60 seconds. The targeted player is marked with an eye symbol above their head. 2 seconds before the turrets shoot the lasers, there will be a message saying target analysis complete. Make sure to position yourself so that none of the 4 lasers will hit the rest of the party. Below 80% HP, this boss has a range check, which comes with the message targeting player, where player is replaced by the name of the character that triggered the range check. That player is then targeted by the laser turrets I just mentioned. If you get stunned below 80% HP and the boss is not in the middle of an animation lock, then there will be a message saying I will crush you. And then the boss will use his weapon as a blender and try to mix you up. This attack will stagger and apply a stack of the debuff, both on each hit. Keep this in mind so you can dodge in case the healer cleanses the stun quickly enough. If the healer gets stunned and their brooch is on cooldown, then lancers can also save them using the blue shield called Guardian Barrier. This mechanic also only comes up below 80% boss HP. It's one of the in-out mechanics that are quite common in TERA, with one version starting on the inside and the other starting on the outside. There are 3 ways to tell if the mechanic starts on the outside or inside. Which version comes up basically depends on whether the boss is enraged or not. There will also be a message on screen saying I'll show you the meaning of despair when the boss is not enraged, and I'll show you what rage is if he is enraged. When preparing for the attack, Rogash will raise his fist, which will then either be covered in a red or blue orb. If the orb was blue, the boss was not enraged and the message ended with despair, then that means the AoEs will start in the center, and they will end with the outer ring. If the orb was red, the boss is enraged, and the message contains the word rage, then that means the AoEs start on the outside and will end on the inner circle. The AoEs cannot be blocked or iframed, so you have to avoid them by jumping from one area into the next in the short moment between 2 hits. As soon as the circle and ring AoEs are done, he will follow up with a room-wide explosion. This AoE cannot be iframed, blocked or even avoided, and it will knock down, but priests can use Kaya's shield and lancers can use Rallying Cry to prevent this. Below 50% HP, the boss will start going into a shield phase every 2 minutes. He will run towards the middle of the room and shield himself for 10 seconds. If you fail to break the shield, he will then say there will be nothing left of you. and then follow up with a room-wide AoE, which does a lot of damage over short time. If you suspect that your party's DPS might be too low to break the shield, then you should all group up so the tank can block and the healer can spam heals. That way the party can actually survive the AoE. There will be a message shown on screen saying "Wah!" or as we call it, "Wah!" Right after that, 3 puddles of different sizes will spawn in the middle of the room. At the same time, the turrets will spawn waves, which kill you if you get hit. The waves will stop halfway towards the center of the arena though, and if necessary, you can iframe over them. The best way to deal with this mechanic is to just stand in a spot where there is no puddle and where the waves also won't reach. There's always a safe spot like that. This mechanic only comes up below 40% boss HP, and it has a 60-second cooldown. Below 35% boss HP, there's one more mechanic with a 2-minute cooldown. First, Rogash will move to the center, and then there will be a message saying R, or something like that. And there will be another message saying core energy charged. Then the turrets will aim lasers at him, which stun him briefly. Make sure you don't touch the lasers, because they will stun you for a long time as well. The moment the boss gets out of the stun, he will cast an expanding wave. Make sure to iframe over this, because it will one-shot you. Right after the wave, there is a 3-second window where you can stun the boss. If you fail to stun him within those 3 seconds, he will wipe the party. This mechanic is still very buggy, and parts of this mechanic might be delayed or might not happen at all. Sometimes only the ARC message appears, then the wave happens, and then you might see 1 or 2 of the lasers. At least the R message seems to be consistent, so it's best to just watch out for both messages when the boss is below 35% HP. And that's it. For new players, this dungeon might be a bit difficult at first, but I think once you know the mechanics and you've practiced a bit, this dungeon should be easy enough. Make sure to have a look at the video description, because if there are any corrections or additions after this video goes live, you'll find them there. Also, let me know what you think of this boss. Did you die a lot during your first run? If you have any other comments or if you have questions, feel free to leave those below as well. Thank you all for watching and see you next time.